All right, everyone. Todd Unger here in the KOIN NOW studio on this Tuesday, just about 2 o'clock here on the West Coast. We are coming up on that time when this new Trump administration review, basically, of all federal dollars is supposed to go into effect. So you can see Washington, D.C. right there. Huge day in D.C., and this announcement from the Trump administration happened last night. We got wind of it then. Really, this morning is when we started to learn some more details, and it is no doubt surprising people on both sides of the political aisle because the implications here are so far-reaching. You're talking about every single state could be impacted, and not, every single state, every single country that receives any kind of foreign aid from the U.S. also keeping a close eye on this. So let's just kind of take a quick step back at what that could mean for us here in Oregon and Washington. A lot of state budgets actually depend on a lot of federal dollars. Here in Oregon, I think it's 30-40 billion that we get from the feds. So this could have a huge impact when you think of things like Medicaid, or when you think of things like OHSU. A lot of these places, hospitals, community groups, community organizations, they might rely on a federal grant. And so we've been reaching out to a lot of those agencies all day long, a lot of those organizations, trying to get a feel for them, exactly what this could mean for them. A lot of them right now, question marks. They don't really know yet.
Shred of warning.
As far as the Medicaid, if you've been on social media at all today, you probably see that a lot of the state Medicaid portals are down.
The country.
Officially, the Trump administration putting out a tweet or an ex-post earlier saying that is unrelated to this.
Trillions.
Not everyone is sure about
support states.
It is just kind of a strange day
towns,
in D.C.
schools,
and for lawmakers,
small
and
businesses,
policymakers,
and most of all, American
anyone
families.
Anywhere that's in the
dagger
in the
at the
government.
heart
Now,
of the average
why is the
American
Trump administration doing this? Well, today the new press secretary, she held her first briefing in Washington, D.C. She was asked directly about that, Caroline Leavitt, and she basically said that every taxpayer dollar that goes out needs to have a review. So that's what they're going to do. And we're not sure how quickly that process will happen. Obviously, that's a concern for some of these, but at least for now, a lot of these federal dollars are frozen. And I just did an interview with Senator Jeff Merkley here from the state of Oregon. He's obviously very concerned. When you think about the Oregon delegation to Congress,
aid to the
almost
elderly,
all of them collectively coming out with statements or getting on camera somewhere to try and say something about how concerned they are about this. The same thing goes for up in Washington as well. So, just a lot of uncertainty right now.
And these cuts.
Last Thursday night we did a big story about the I-5 bridge, which is a huge issue for Oregonians and those folks who live in Southwest Washington.
What is this going to mean?
And we raised the question, what would
if I have a hospital
this administration do when it came to those federal dollars? Because at least about half of that project, perhaps more when it's all said and done.
January 6th
for now, at least half of that money really needs to come from federal sources.
Is lawless,
and that has not
dangerous,
been earmarked all the way through. Some of it has, but not all of it. And even that money that has been earmarked,
it's unconstitutional.
Those checks have not been fully written. So
I spoke to my attorney
it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with projects like that.
General Association.
Even if we get through this first week of kind of confusion and chaos with what this funding freeze really means, when you think of long-term projects in the state of Oregon and Washington, something like that could certainly be brought into question. Again, so right now, 5 o'clock out on the East Coast, and lawmakers there are just trying to still figure out exactly what this means. I think we had Senator Schumer up earlier today. Yeah, I know Democrats held a briefing earlier today.
By another name.
See some other U.S.
They
senators
knew how unpopular Project 2025 was.
Obviously, they were quite, and there's actually Senator Merkley right there.
There's
Senator Murray, and so a strong Northwest representation at that
the Trump administration must immediately reverse course, follow the requirements
of that law,
and make sure that the nation's spending laws are implemented.
President Musk told the GOP Congress to cut funding for childhood cancer research and bipartisan program adopted under the Obama administration. Well, we're going to have to see about some of these programs because there are quite a few bipartisan programs that could be impacted by this. You think of the the assistance that the U.S. gives for AIDS research and AIDS prevention in Africa, which was a G.W. Bush policy that was then really beefed up and continued by the Obama administration and, ironically, by the first Trump administration.
Sure.
They put a lot of money into that program.
Laws are
that could be in
Congress
jeopardy when you
intended.
think about some of these federal dollars. So there are going to be some bipartisan federal programs that get a much, much closer look at. And again, this is earlier. Here's Senator Merkley. He came out, made some comments.
Trump
we did another interview with him just about
is not a
20,
king.
25 minutes ago. Ken Boddy is going to be talking with Oregon lawmakers tonight at 4, 5, and 6. We also have Ariel Salk. She's going to be looking at a little bit more of the community impact that could happen here. So you think of programs like Meals on Wheels. What happens with that? They get a ton
and thus
of
we have a
federal
constitutional
grants.
crisis.
So she's kind of taking a little bit
Just
closer
last
look
week,
at the people
Russell Vought-
angle to all this. And Ken Boddy will be
came
focusing
before
on
the
what
Budget Committee in a
lawmakers and how they're
and the things he spoke to laid out a three-part
so
plan.
a few Facebook comments coming in today. But
Part one,
never a boring day when you're talking about D.C. and when you're talking about politics and how they impact us here in Oregon and the Pacific Northwest, and certainly today is no exception. And you think about the Trump administration, we're on day 8 officially now. He was inaugurated a week ago yesterday, and every day has certainly brought a flurry of activity and a lot of different actions. But this one is probably getting, I would think, at least from lawmakers, because it impacts literally every state and almost every demographic. This one is probably getting the most immediate attention. We've talked a lot about the ICE raids going on around different parts of the country.
Borrow trillions.
Certainly there's been no shortage of other headlines over the past 8 days. But this one is just potentially
giveaways to
potentially has such far-reaching implications that
what
it
we
really
saw
is
last
getting
night
a lot of the attention, at least
was
today.
A huge
I will tell you that the Trump administration also said that some of these reviews for federal dollars
across this country
could only last a day or two.
Is the great
a spokesperson came out earlier today and said that.
Trump,
so what we're talking about today with a federal funding freeze, some of these areas Thursday, Friday,
families
might kind of be back to business as usual.
Russell
that probably will not be the case
refused to answer
across
many
the board,
questions about his
but certainly
plan,
in some of these
particularly
departments, especially
to say
those
he would
that
not
have a lot of bipartisan support,
illegal
you would think that at some point
strategy.
these dollars would
Impoundment means the president treats.
So yeah, we're just going to have to wait and see. I mean, when you talk about Oregon here, I mentioned this earlier, there's about 1.3 million low-income Oregonians that are on Medicaid right now. So that's a pretty big number when you think about the overall state population. And again, how this impacts them, when the portal gets back up, how that all works, kind of question marks right now. So tonight at 4, 5, and 6, we're going to be trying to get you some of those answers. I will also say that Governor Kotek, she held a press conference earlier this afternoon as well, so we're going to hear from her. Also, the Attorney General, newly sworn in, Dan Rayfield, he also was a part of that to see how the state DOJ may respond. You might remember last week, he and the AG from Washington, a couple other states, they actually sued the Trump administration over their move to try and block birthright citizenship. So that is tied up in the courts right now. So you've already seen some legal action from some of these states and state attorneys general, our attorney general being one of them, and we'll have to see how that pans out later today here in Oregon. So about 2:10 now on the West Coast. Nice look out there at the Mount Hood, and there we go. All right, well, yeah. Well, keep the comments coming. If you guys have anything else you want to say, we would love to hear your comments on Facebook or elsewhere. What do we got here? Oh, okay. It looks like a federal judge has temporarily blocked the federal aid freeze. That is interesting. Okay. Well, let's get out the old phone here and take a look. Yeah, as I just mentioned, I mean, you didn't think it would be long before there was some kind of court challenge to this. That has been the case with some of the executive orders that President Trump has already tried to put down. And then with this move today, certainly we didn't think it would be long before that happened. So federal judge temporarily blocks. Let's see what the AP is saying about this here. U.S. District Judge, okay. So this was minutes before it was set to go into effect. So yeah, this had just happened. So this effectively would freeze any more action until next Monday, it looks like. Let's go ahead. Can we go ahead and scroll down on that? Josh, so I can get, yeah, okay. So this would effectively put this freeze on freeze until Monday. That's kind of what we're thinking. I should also point out that the Trump administration was quick themselves to point out that not everything was being, impacted by this. Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, student loans, basically anything that impacted an individual directly, they were saying would not be impacted. There was some debate and confusion about that and just what exactly was going to. Yeah, let's go ahead and bring up here's the article itself. You can see right here. This is what a federal judge has blocked. The Trump administration freeze on federal grants and loans could total trillions. Okay. So yeah, we're going to have to see how this plays out. But interesting, very, very interesting nonetheless to see. And then it says that this would be frozen until Monday. So I'm not sure if maybe, well, we'll see. There could be, I would think, a appeal or some court action before that by the administration now. But we're going to have to wait and see how this all plays out. So just another day in 2025, January 28th, and just another busy day in the Capitol and across the whole country as kind of we get adjusted to a lot happening in D.C. and how it impacts us here in Oregon and also Washington. So that's what we've got for today. I'm going to go ahead and we'll go ahead and sign off. But make sure to tune in tonight, 4, 5, and 6. We're going to break this down a little bit further for you and get some analysis. So we'll see you tonight. Thanks.